Cool.
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 Totally.
Gotcha.
Affirmative.
Roger.
So Battletech.
Fucking great! What a awesome game that is. Dude, am I right? Am I right? Tell me I'm right.
You're not.
Oh. Okay, so I loved it. I absolutely
you were
loved
telling
the
me,
game.
man.
Oh man, it's such a good game. It's
Yeah. And the thing is, what's funny about it is that, like, I was the one who convinced you to buy this game.
Yeah, like the trailers came out, and then we had those epic story sweeps, and then like I remember I sent you a video like when the stories came out, and you're like, man, this game looks great, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know, I'm on the fence about it.
Yeah, I want to play Pillars. There's some other stuff I want to play. Like Cultist Simulator and all these other kind of PC games.
Yeah, and then finally I just bit the bullet because it's BattleTech. And I don't mean Battletech the video game. I mean Battletech the universe. I'm talking like your mech warriors, your mech assaults, all that fun stuff, which I kind of knew about. I didn't know that much going into, but I kind of knew about it.
I mean, like, we both played Mech Assault back in the day. We
did.
A couple of the Mech Warrior games, and although Mech Assault was my favorite, which is why I was kind of into BattleTech, even though I was being told left and right that it wasn't really Mech Assault. It was a completely different type of game.
Yeah,
I was like, you know what? It's robots, so we're gonna do
giant robots that punch each other and blow shit up. Yeah, and then that's when I started looking into it, and I'm like, oh wow, this looks pretty fantastic. It's like a tactical tabletop game, which is one way to easily win my heart. So I ended up buying it, and then I ended up just, binging through enough, like, all this Battletech material, trying to get myself ready for this game. And then I remember sending you every single trailer I watched, every single video I saw about the game, every single post I saw about the game. And so we had this, like, point where my excitement is like this, and yours is like this. It still was going up.
It was going up, but it was more like a plateau type thing.
Yeah. And so, like, yours is kind of like that now, and mine's up here. And
mine
then
was more like a line, and yours was more of like a curve up.
Yeah,
like off into the atmosphere.
Yeah, like sky high. I rocket jumped that shit right up in there.
Exactly. I was more like just kind of like a straight move across the terrain, basically.
Yeah.
Moving up a hill though, but you kind of like just went jumped onto a mountain.
Yeah. Like, because that's the only way to get on top of stuff is to immediately climb up a mountain and skip the hills. You reach for the stars.
Yeah, I'll admit I use jump jets a lot in BattleTech.
And so
to my pleasure, but also detriment.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that multiplayer match we had.
Remind me about that.
Yeah. So then the game came out.
Yeah.
And we're messaging each other about that first couple missions, and then the next couple days after that, and suddenly that graph like this, I'm still here, and I'm kind of going up, but then you're kind of going like you're going that way.
Yeah, I kind of. Basically, I think we can kind of like. I guess I'll ask you this, Frank. How many hours did you put into the game?
42, 41. Damn. 41 or 42. One of those two. But I know there's a 40 in there for sure.
Damn. I guess to illustrate this well, do you want to know how many hours I put in?
How many hours did you put in?
7.
That's significantly less than 41.
Yeah, that's, well, if it was 42, that'd be 6 times less, but...
Math is fun!
Frank, yeah, and you're kind of fucking up on me here, Frank, because, you did 41 hours, so...
Yeah. I mean, I finished the main campaign, and I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit here, but... So I finished the main storyline, and one thing I love about the game is that it's not contingent on the main story, which means that you're as free to pursue that story as you want to be. You can jump in, and you can pick whatever missions you want to do. If you want to just do side missions for the money, you're free to do that. The priority missions pay the most, and they're the most interesting, because that's where all the story is, but if you want to ignore them, you can. And then once you finish the main storyline, and you resolve that whole thing, the game dumps you back into the world and says you're free to go. You can keep your same squad, you can keep your same mechs, and you can keep doing missions ad infinitum until like your heart is desired and you just don't feel like playing anymore.
So the Skyrim method, basically, you're saying?
Essentially, yeah. Like, just this free reign on, these procedurally generated missions over and over again. Which is great, because in my opinion, it works really, really well from a gameplay standpoint. That it doesn't really get boring.
Yeah, I mean, Battletech's not the type of game where you'd really want to have just, like, a bunch of linear missions and then the game ends. That's not... Honestly, I don't think they would make a game like that. They want it to be something where you can, branch out and you can just kind of keep playing perpetually until you either run out of money or until you get bored.
Yeah, and it's very unlike XCOM and XCOM 2, where the game is very much tied into the story. Once you finish the story, you're done. Rightfully so, because that's how it's constructed. But with Battletech, you're a mercenary. There's always going to be war going on.
Yeah. You know what's similar to XCOM and XCOM 2, though?
What?
How much this game kicked my ass.
Oh, do tell.
It's just... Oh my god. Like, so I'll say the one thing that, like, there's this whole meme going around the Battletech community, which I think you were telling me about, Frank, which is, when did you lose your Decker? Yeah. And I'll tell you that in my playthrough, I didn't lose Decker at all. I actually, like, my last mission that I played, I finally lost somebody, but I wasn't, I was being relatively careful with my people, I guess. There was a couple times where I went, like, oh crap, what happened? But then it ended up just being, like, incapacitated, so they just had to rest for, like, 100 days or some shit like that. Yeah. So... basically, I played the first couple missions. I was like, this is okay. I can get used to this. It kind of pulled its punches, so to speak. And then once you kind of get past that mission where the story finally starts, really, then you start doing the other missions, and, like, it just stops pulling its punches. And the game just starts kicking your ass. If you make, like, the slightest mistake, they will punish you.
Yeah, there's this, like, weird difficulty curve, and it's something that the devs actually did talk about that they're going to address, is that the kind of, like, roller coaster difficulty curve of, it's like going really, really well for you, and then suddenly here's a big tough mission where you should have, like, X number of heavy mechs in order to successfully do it, but you probably don't, because a lot of it's based on, like, what you salvage after every mission, so you might not have the mechs that you want to use, and it's, really tough to get through the mission. And then you might come up with another mission that's super easy, and then it's just a cakewalk, and then it just kind of goes up and down and up and down.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, so the structure of how this game works is, I mean, I guess I kind of enjoyed it. It's very micromanagement heavy, so you have to, in between missions, you have to repair your mechs, you have to take new contracts, and of course there's travel time in between each mission. So you have to kind of balance yourself in a way that you're not necessarily taking too much time in between missions, or else you're going to run out of money, because every month you have to pay salaries for all of your workers.
Salaries,
and also pay
overhead.
For repairs, overhead, everything. Like, all that is taken into account with this game, which, it's interesting in its idea, but it also just causes incredible amounts of anxiety for me, because I do enough of that at work.
But you're running a mercenary company. It's not a power fantasy. You don't just jump in a mech and kick shit up.
Yeah. I mean,
there's bills to pay.
But then there's the whole, like, spreadsheets and, budget. I'm sorry, but I can't. It's too much.
I'll be honest, like, that wasn't my favorite part of the game, but I didn't have any real qualms with it. Because, I don't know, maybe it's because I play a lot of management sims that stuff like that isn't even really a problem, but I found it to be a very light and very straightforward system. The only part where it got hectic was when I upgraded my mech bay, and then I made a lot of upgrades to my ship, and then suddenly I'm paying $500,000 a month just to pay for the storage of the 8 or 9 mechs that I have ready to go on a single mission, plus whatever my salaries for my pilots are, because the salaries increase when they get experience. Plus all of the upgrades I made to my ship, like the enhanced medical bay and, like, the rec room and all that, to, like, give my team a morale boost. And then by that point, you're already doing more difficult missions where you're just making more money and you can just sell your excess. So it's a very simple, like, buying and selling system. But I think where the game just excels at is beyond that, and it's just, like, the gritty tactical combat, which takes up the majority of your time anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think one of the things I did have a somewhat decent grasp on was the actual combat itself. So, of course, the game rewards you, for positioning yourself strategically, and also for, being the one that gets the height advantage, essentially. That's the name of the game, for the most part, at least as far as I could see. especially in our multiplayer match, where like literally it's just luck of the draw. You got the area that didn't have as much terrain, whereas I had the big tall peak that I could just stick my sniper guy on top of and just like pick at you.
Yeah, that was a real frustrating early game there.
Yeah, let's not talk about how that ended.
No, let's. But yeah, sorry, go on.
I mean, that's kind of indicative of my frustrations with the game, was that a lot of times I'd start out really strong and then eventually I would just lose. I think something that really kind of ticked me off was that last mission during like the 7th hour of playing, where basically the game's mechanics were all kind of coming down on top of me, so to speak. It was, I had my salaries I had to pay. I had only 3 mechs available, which was my 2 light mechs and the Centurion that I'd just gotten. So I couldn't really, like it came with some weapons on it, but like the stuff I could put on it, the stuff I couldn't put on it, it was kind of, I don't know. There's some parts about mech refitting that weren't quite clear to me. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of launched with what it had, and then the 2 light mechs with Medusa, Decker, and myself.
Ooh.
And as you know, Medusa's mech doesn't have jump jets, so he's kind of just like sprinting around, and then I've got Decker jumping around trying to do most of the heavy lifting, whereas Centurion only has like 2 weapons they can use. Otherwise, I'm just doing melee. And quite frankly, we got our ass kicked. We never stood a chance. And also, me doing too much death from above didn't really help, which is fun mechanic, by the way. I mean, the fact that your jump command can be used as an attack, essentially. You hit the jump button and then you scroll over to an enemy, click on it, and the person will literally just like dive bomb them. But you also run the risk of doing what happened to me, which is with Decker, we jumped and then I broke both the legs of the mech. So,
that's one of the many options you have at your disposal, and that's one thing I absolutely adore about this game as much as I do, is because the combat runs very, very deep. You have your death from above, where your boost jets or your jump jets can actually be used as a weapon. You have a wide variety of mechs that play a wide variety of roles that can all be customized. So if you don't like stock loadouts, you can change them up. And I know you were just saying like you're a bit confused with that, but basically every mech has a number of different points on their body parts where they can equip certain weapons. So like the right arm of one particular mech can only equip 2 laser weapons, while their left arm can equip a machine gun, stuff like that. So you're limited in there, but then ammo you can pretty much dump anywhere. And then it gets to the point where you can customize the mechs, where you can strip away their armor and load up on like all the big guns and ammo and turn them essentially into a glass cannon that will fall over if someone farts on them. Just to like have more missile slots and just blast the bejesus out of anything you see. That's an option, and the game's not stopping you from doing that. And you can probably be successful in pulling it off. Height advantage is important. Where you shoot the other mech is important, because you can lose body parts and they just rip off. If you destroy both a mech's legs, they're removed from the mission. The pilot inside of the mech can be injured, and if you take too many injuries, then they're incapacitated. They can't pilot the mech. That mech is gone without being destroyed.
Yeah, if they get hit too hard, then they die.
Yeah, there is so much to consider when you're going through the tactical map, that the only thing that I think takes away from it, and that even I struggled with a little bit, but I just have a higher tolerance for it than you do, I would say, is that the game is very, very slow. It plays slowly.
Okay, so you're not kidding. That is my principal sticking point with this game. It moves way too goddamn slow.
It moves like a mech does, or how you would expect a giant robot to.
Yeah, but then you also put turn-based combat on top of that. So it's literally like games, like a single game can take like 20-30 minutes. Like we're talking like, mobile, match length type shit going on here. And with half of the, intensity, so to speak.
Yeah, because there's a lot of points where you're just moving your mechs into position before the combat even starts, or you have a light mech like scouting the area in front of you to see what's up.
Yeah, So I guess if I would say, like, with this, the way that this combat works, if somebody were to ask me, like, who would you recommend this game for? I would be like, well, I'll tell you who I won't recommend this game for. Anybody whose, like, favorite games are, like, third-person, first-person shooters. Like, if your only real experience with the mech games are, like, Mech Assault and Armored Core, and, I'd say probably, those are the two that really could stick out to me. But those are much faster-paced games. You're not really going to like Battletech. It's not the same type of game.
Yeah, Zone of the Enders, this is not.
Oh, God, no. It's a good callback, though. I'm proud of you.
Oh, well, thank you. But if you're like me, though, and you live for strategy games, and you love very deep tactics games, then the Battletech may be something that's absolutely worth looking into. Or if you're just like a lore junkie, which is what I am, because this game takes place in an incredibly dense universe. There's a lot going on. And while I was a little disappointed with the lack of customization and the lack of agency you may have had on the story, I really enjoyed the plot that they push you through. I was hoping it was a little more RPG, but I was very satisfied with what I did play through, in all honesty, because I thought it was perfectly suitable for the kind of game it was. Because again, the main meat of the game is that tactical combat. So if you have an aversion to that, like if XCOM was not something that you're into, then Battletech is not something that would appeal to you, even if you are a big fan of giant robots.
True. And honestly, I enjoyed XCOM a little bit more, maybe because it was a little more fast-paced.
Yeah.
Whereas, Battletech is like, they call it a tabletop simulator, and it's true, because it literally plays like picture yourself putting these game pieces on a real board and playing in like a hobby shop or something. That's what this is on a computer.
Which is exactly why this game would be appealing to fans of tabletop Battletech.
Exactly. And it doesn't necessarily appeal to, I guess I represent more of like the twitchier people. Your Warframe players, your Overwatch players, those kind of people.
Fast-paced, high octane, smoking guns, running guns blazing.
And the thing is, like, our interests, as far as like kind of like the twitchy action games with mech games, they tend to intersect at times. There's games like Gundam Versus, there's games like Project Nimbus, like Armored Core, the list goes on. But there's definitely a lot of common ground there. Whereas you look, I guess that it doesn't necessarily stretch to every mech game. And Battletech, I think, is the first real stake that says, like, this is not for everyone. Whereas I think the last mech game to really do that was Front Mission.
I've never played that.
So I think people who played Front Mission will really enjoy this game, because it's a lot, I guess, like, it almost feels kind of like the game for the people who missed that game, because Front Mission was kind of like XCOM Mechs, like in a little bit of a faster sense. It was kind of even more direct in the sense that it was a bit of a faster game compared to Battletech. And also the perspective's a little bit different. It's not top down. It's more of like a, I don't know, third person-ish perspective, I guess. Mm-hmm. Kind of more like XCOM. I'm going to keep dropping XCOM a lot. Basically, if you play XCOM and you like mechs, just fucking buy Battletech. But
especially if you played the original XCOM.
I wouldn't know. But
it's slower than the new one.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Front Mission was essentially the prototype, essentially, for what we're seeing here. And I think that if you liked those games back on the PS2, then you will really enjoy Battletech.
Yeah. But Battletech, overall, love my time with it. I have zero regrets in buying this game. I thought it was awesome. And while I was peripherally interested or aware of the Battletech universe, now I'm like an actual fan of the Battletech universe. Also, shout out to John Everest for making a very, very good soundtrack. I think that's the name of the composer. I think it's John Everest. But yeah, the soundtrack for this game...
We'll have a graphic if we didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. But the soundtrack for this game, really great. Very, very well done orchestral tune, which you would not think would work with this kind of game, but he makes it work very well. There's some real highly emotional moments, and that's accentuated very much by the music, and it stood out to me so much that I got the soundtrack, and I was actually listening to it just as like background study music. It's wonderful, wonderful stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The music was done very, very well. And I think that, not to the point where I would buy the soundtrack, but like I was listening to the background, I was like, this is high quality. This
Absolutely.
is, even though this is like, Kickstarter games can kind of have this sort of like, sometimes they're good, sometimes they seem like Kickstarter games.
Yeah.
And whereas this feels like it was something that was professionally made. And it is professionally made. These are professionals who made this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, this is a studio who knows what they're doing. They knocked it out of the park with the Shadowrun games. And the devs have said that they are interested in making some expansion packs, hopefully down the line, depending on how well the game does. So, I'm excited for that prospect, because I can always use some more Battletech in my life.
Right. Yeah, I guess with me, it's just, I don't regret buying it, but it's not for me.
And that's perfectly okay.
That is perfectly okay. I'm going to wait for Mech Warrior 5.
So am I.
and Mech Assault 3, because we know it's happening.
Maybe.
It's not happening, but we know it's happening. Cross the fingers.